And what's up, folks? We are live with another episode of the Takeover Podcast. This is your host, Dan Rojas, aka The Kid, aka The Anomaly, aka The Captain, bringing you another episode with zero branding, just fire content. And I got to tell you, today's episode has me super pumped, especially for this year. I'm going to go ahead and just bring him on. I got my boy, John Marrone, on with us. And he is the growth expert. Now, this guy, if you don't know him, you got to start watching all his stuff and start following him around. You know, he opened up my eyes to a lot of different stuff last year. And we actually linked up this past year over at Sync Summit here in Orlando. And I've never seen conversations and growth taught the way that John does it. And when it comes to real estate, I mean, this guy basically breaks it down. When I used to look at the reasons why people bought and sold houses, before it broke down into 6 different categories. And then when I talked to John, you know, they always say that experts simplify things, right? And so he actually broke it down into 2 different categories, pain and pleasure. But without further ado, welcome, John, to the Takeover Podcast.
What is going on, brother? Good to see you. Glad I get to see you before I see you in person again coming up here in a week, man. I'm stoked to be on your show and hopefully add value to your audience and give them that one piece of advice, the tool, the strategy that could truly exponentially grow their business, but more importantly, change the trajectory of their future and their family's future. So I'm stoked and I'm honored to be on, brother.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I wanted to have you on. You know, we had talked about this a little while ago, and you know, we really linked up more after your class, because your class had like 400 people in it. So obviously, I was sitting in the way back. My business partner Andrew Brooks actually was one of the volunteers where you tested him out and tried him, and he actually did pretty well, to be quite honest. But I was too shy at that moment in time to go ahead and jump in the conversation. But tell us a little bit more about your background. Tell us how, where you come from. How you kind of explain to the people how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long story, and I'll kind of make it as short as possible. You know, growing up, I didn't have the easiest life, right? I had parents that loved me, but unfortunately, they made bad decisions. Maybe you guys could relate to that, right? Like there was love, but through the decisions, it didn't really feel like love, right? And a lot of that, I think, had to do with their addiction. And it was addiction to not just drugs. It was addiction to making bad decisions and not saving and the whole nine. And then I realized that I kind of took on the same role, right? And from sitting there at 12, 13 years old, I start getting into drugs. I start being addicted to violence, gossip, drama, negativity, bad decisions. And I fall into this cycle. And at that moment, I didn't realize the whole situation of, you know, your circumstances can't and don't have to dictate your future. And so I just started going through the motions and kind of repeating history of my last name. And it came to a point where it was so bad, I got locked up. And I'm sitting in jail, and I got out of jail, and I thought things would change then, right? And they didn't, man. Like, I made some small steps, but when I got out of jail, before that, I was homeless. I was couch hopping. I was living in motels. I really got out, and I just wanted to get back into the self-destruction mode, right? Self-sabotage mode. And I didn't realize I wanted to get back into that, Dan, until probably about 2 years ago, right? Years later. And so I try to push away the person who is now my wife and say, you don't want me. Like, dude, I'm lost. Like, you don't want this. Like, this is a mess.
Yeah.
You don't want to deal with it. And she, fortunate enough for me, said, no, I'm sticking by your side. And she stuck by my side, and, you know, we made strides. And I opened up my own contracting company. I ended up running a sales and marketing firm. We were doing okay, right? I was better than I was, but not exponentially. And when I say better, I think I was better, more income for sure, but I wasn't better as a person. I was still selfish. I was still stubborn. And the reason why I know that is because of what happened October 29th, 2012. And that was when it all changed for me. And Hurricane Sandy paid a visit to the Jersey Shore, and I lived on the barrier islands. And what that means is that we're basically surrounded by bodies of water. And being from Jersey, being Italian, being who I was extremely stubborn. Sometimes I still am, but I was extremely stubborn. And I remember they said, you don't have to leave. This is not mandatory evacuation. And I'm like, cool, we're not going to leave. I took my parents from their motel and I brought them into my home. And I remember clear as day, it was 8:00 at night. We went outside. The wind was whipping. I mean, the poles were looking like they're going to come down, but there was no rain. So I'm like, okay, it's not going to be that bad. We go inside, and within an hour, that's when I heard the trickle that really shocked me. And that was a trickle of water that came into our house. I'm like, I don't understand. It was just nice outside. It wasn't nice, but it wasn't raining. And so I got up from playing Monopoly, and that was probably one of the only times we played Monopoly or a board game with our family, right? Tragedy creates that gratitude and that bond. So I walked and I look outside, and there it was, man, roaring rapids. And we had pieces of dock, boats flying into our yard. And within minutes, boom, it crashes to the foundation and the water just starts pouring in, pouring in. And I remember it funny because my father is sitting there and he's taking this like mop bucket and he's like taking it and trying to throw it out the water, like throw it out the window. And I'm like, I don't know what what was going through his mind at that time. But looking back at him, like there was not a fighting chance. So we went ahead and we scurried everybody upstairs. There's one level, but we had the attic. And I'm soaking wet because it's October. And obviously I was trying to put some things up. So I got wet. And I remember sitting up there, man, and I had this epiphany. I looked back at my family and I said, what have I done? Like, what have I done? Not just to my family today, but in my life. Like because I thought we were going to die. And the reason being is because every 20, 30 minutes, it kept climbing. The water kept climbing rung by rung by rung. And then all you hear is boom, boom, boom. The trees coming through the roof. And you have this pressure where you feel like you're about to die. And when I had that moment of fear of almost dying, I looked back and I said a word I never said before in the context I said it in. And that was, what kind of impact have I made? And so when I said that, it kind of shocked my system. And I realized in that moment, John Marrone was all about income. Like, to me, income solved all my problems. I led with income first. So I made this commitment. And I said, once I get down, and I get saved, and I get rescued, I will create a life of impact first, income second. And so we got rescued, and I'm sitting in a shelter, and it wasn't necessarily the hurricane that changed it all. It was this moment. I said, I made this commitment. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to give my wife what she deserves and a better life and create these experiences, but I don't know how. And that right there, knowing what I didn't know, is saying that, look, I don't know what I don't know, was my biggest opportunity to grow. And then from there, I just digested, investigated, and studied the best minds in the world in all areas of life so I could implement it in my own and start changing my own life. And once I did that, I was then able to go ahead and give that back to the universe, and through the speaking engagements, through Sync, through my coaching platforms. And that's kind of where we stand today, man. So it took a lot of force around me for me to be aware of what's going on, for me to be like, hey, look, your life needs to change. And I'm just trying to tell people, like, stop, wake up. Like, if it wasn't for Hurricane Sandy, I would still be living the way I was living and possibly, be dead, right? Like, if it wasn't for jail, I probably would be dead or even longer sentence in jail because I would have continued these bad habits. So I just want to be the voice for you to hear and just be like, dude, he's right. This is one chance we get at this. We know way too many people that died way too early and that had so much greatness and potential in them. Don't let that be you. And that's just the message I'm trying to get across.
When you spoke at Sync Summit, I knew that there was more to you than just being like a coach, a growth expert, a motivator. And I saw that in you and how you actually tied it all together, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not really teaching a script, as I've said before. You teach like human to human connection, right? And you're trying to get to the bottom of that pain or pleasure. And I knew that about you, so I did a little bit more research because I'm going to be very vulnerable here at this moment in time too. And it's just that not too long ago, I was homeless myself, and people look at me and they don't even know that. I was fortunate enough. I had a really good friend of mine, and I fell on hard times. Me and a buddy of mine made a really poor investment money wise, and we lost a lot of money. And I couldn't fathom getting back from that realistically, right? I was like, okay, we just lost X amount. How do we get back from that realistically? And I luckily had a friend, and I stayed on his sofa for like a good almost a year, basically. And it was not like it was like a comfortable place. It wasn't a big home. It was a 1-1. So mind you, I'm sleeping in the living room, right? But I haven't told that story to many people. But it's crazy how God works, right? We've talked about this before, how there's no coincidences, right? Where how it all lines up, and success always happens after the breaking point, right? Eventually I was able to pick up my own feet. I got a great job at the time, And what ended up happening was my buddy moved out, and I actually took over the lease. And ironically enough, that's how I met my wife, because she actually lived 2 buildings over from that building. And she never went out to go meet anybody. And I was at the point where I was kind of like at a turning point as well, where I was like, I got to stop going out. I got to stop partying so hard. And that's how we linked up. And from there, the rest is history. But you're right, man. I got to tell you that some people, we tend to look at it as like, okay, our money, we're complacent, we're good. But it kind of keeps us at that level where we're not really trying to grow anymore, right? And we're not trying to be the best version of ourselves. And that's what I saw in you. Was I was like, there's something more to this guy. I gotta interview him. I gotta get him on the podcast. I was like, we gotta link up again. And I'm speaking of linking up again, and I know you had mentioned it earlier. You've got 2 gigs coming up. You've got one is the Sync event coming up next week.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about that. I know that that's mostly for realtors. What event, what day and time and location? Because I know I have it somewhere written down, but I don't have it in front of me right now.
Yeah. So we'll be out there with a Sync crew. We're going to do a Sync to You, which is basically how to utilize the buttons, right? I mean, people spend a lot of time, and some people spend the money to actually be in that system. And so we want you to maximize it, right? Be more effective, be more efficient. Stop wasting time in there. So the first day, we're going to be talking about how to maximize the system while you're in there. Day 2 is where I come in and I break down how to become a conversation master to create conversion. And so that's Wednesday and Thursday next week. And that's over at the golf place, the Drive Shack.
Okay. Well, there's 2. There's Top Golf and there's Drive Shack.
Drive Shack. That's where it's
Drive
at.
Shack. Got it. Yeah.
And so we're going to be there. We're going to sell out. We have about 20 more tickets left because we only have 80 people in the room because it's not that big. And obviously you were at my 90-minute version of it, and it had 400 people there. But for this one, we're going to really break down and go super deep because we have a lot longer to go. And we're going to play a board game that we've created to really help you get comfortable with role playing and create that masterful skill. We're going to go deep into how to understand what the best mindset and best practices on your daily routine are, because you got to have the mindset as well as the skill. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to tie it off with actually calling your leads. And what we saw, man, we've had 5,000 agents come through the course, and we've seen contact to appointment set 33%. 5,000 agents, 3 years. Like, I could show you all the Excel spreadsheets, and I'm always like, when's it going to change? And it always is the same. 33% is average. Sometimes 28, sometimes 39, but 33% is the average. So synccommunity.com/sync, the number 2, and then you. So Sync to You. Go check it out. We're going to sell out. Look, if you're in the Sync system, if you want to learn how to become a conversation master that creates conversion and really go ahead and make the most amount of money off those leads that you have in your system, there is no better place than in your own backyard. Or if you have to drive there 2-3 hours, get there. We will sell out. So that's the one for Sync.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that, because I know that you've got these points to amplify your life and increase your income. So let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll roll into your retreat, because I know that that's huge. I mean, that's going to be epic in May. And that one, I don't have to, like, I've got the link for that. It's May 2nd. I got the time, Destin, Florida. Like, I'm so looking forward to that event. You don't have to, like, I don't even have to have that info in front of me. I already have it memorized. But tell us a little bit more about, like, the 5 things that people can do right now that they can execute to amplify their life and increase their income. Because I know that you and I kind of are we're very similar with how, destruction has kind of built us up, right? And so tell me a little bit more about that guidance that you give us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have something called the PRESS method. Right, I'm a dork for acronyms, right? And so the PRESS method, it really helps you not just have a better quality of life, but better relationships. It increases your income, amplifies your relationships, and ignites the fire within. And it's simple, man. P stands for prep, right? And I think that the game is won in a locker room, right? We see a lot of these football teams, basketball teams, and they're either great and they're bad. And I think a lot of it doesn't have to do with the talent on the team. I think a lot of it has to do with what goes on in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I always tell everybody, you will never see a team they won't practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and come out and play on Sunday. They won't do it.
No.
They're prepping their week. So role play obviously is huge for real estate agents, but in general, like, are you on Sunday taking the 10 minutes out to ask yourself this one question? And that is, what does success look like this week? Here it comes, though. In my health, in my relationship, in my finances, in my business, in my this, and there's 6 equities, right? So you got to ask yourself, what does success look like in those areas? Then every morning you ask yourself, what does it look like today? So you have to prep, right? Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. Like you must prep. And I could talk about your yearly goals. I could talk about your monthly, but just know this: if you're going into the week and you haven't prepped yet, especially in real estate, I'm going to tell you, you will become a slave to your profession. You will get squeezed in so many different ways that your relationship, your health, and other things will start to fall to the wayside. And you're going to have this unbalanced, this crazy roller coaster of a life. Get ahead of it, right?
And
Get ahead of it.
I couldn't agree more, because like there's days where I wake up and everybody has bad days. Sometimes you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed, literally. But that prep time, what you're saying, has helped me out so much, because there's days where I get up and my wife is also in an awful mood, right? Well, we can't both be in a bad mood, right? So one of us has to do something. So I gotta take a second and I gotta prep exactly like you're saying, because what I do is I put on my Pandora station that we were just talking about, my 24 karat magic Pandora station. That's like my pump up jam, and my wife knows it because she actually hates that I blast music in the morning. So she's like, okay, he's in another room. We're good. I'm going to do my thing. But it really does change your mindset. And at that point in time, you start seeing things more clearly. And I agree with you 1,000%.
I love that you said more clearly, because see, clarity is a 2-step process. It's thought and then it's action, right? And when you think about, you see things more clearly, and it becomes from your prep. I love the analogy about a 2x4, right? These 2x4s that are smacking you on the head. Oh my God, this deal fell through. Oh my God, this happened. I have a meeting. I can't go to the gym. And I'm like, look, all that stuff can be taken care of if you just look at your week ahead of time. You say, oh, I got a a Wednesday appointment at 2. I usually go to the gym at 2. I can go ahead and go to the gym in the morning. I'm just going to wake up a little bit early and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Uses that you're using, a lot of it comes from you're not willing to prep. And then the next thing is R, and that's rituals. Show me your rituals and I'll show you your future. What are you doing day in and day out? The most important 4 hours of your day. And guys, if you're not taking notes, please start taking notes. Most important 4 hours of your day. The 2 when you wake up and the 2 before you go to sleep. What are you doing with that time? Mm-hmm. What are you doing with that time? My ritual is so dialed in because I know the power of it. I know that without it, I know the results. And with it, I know the results. So when I wake up, there's such a strong routine I have, from my gratitude to my affirmations to stillness to going ahead and doing 30 minutes of personal development to get me my growth in, right? Get my growth in so I can give 8 hours, 10 hours to everybody else, because I cannot fill anybody's cup up if mine is empty. And if it's not empty on Monday, it's going to be empty on Tuesday if I don't do it.
Yep.
What I see with a lot of real estate agents, brother, is this. They get a bunch of deals, right? And this is rituals in general. They get a bunch of deals going. They're working 6 deals, 7 deals, and they stop calling.
Yep.
They stop doing the things that they were doing to get them there. And then 3 or 4 deals fall through, and they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have all these bills. Well, bro, if you just continue doing the things that you were doing to get there, and those things fell through, I'm here to tell you that your life would not be this huge roller coaster ride of income. Not as bad.
Yeah.
So stop. I don't care how many deals you're working. You could find time, right? You could create the opportunity. You just got to continue doing the things that got you there. And so that ritual is huge for me, as far as every morning I have the same routine, right? And here's the thing, bro. I don't always want to do it. I don't always want to wake up at 5 o'clock, 5:15. I don't. But it also, like, I look at my life and I'm like, everything I do matters to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Every decision I make matters to my wife, to my daughter, to you, to the people listening. Because here's the thing. If I didn't wake up early this morning, do my personal development, if I didn't go to the gym, then I would not have this energy right now. And without this energy, I can't deliver and articulate the value I'm trying to deliver. Therefore, I'm affecting the people listening.
Correct.
Everything I do matters to everybody else, right? It's way bigger than me. So my rituals are a big reason why I stick with it, is because of that. I know the power of it.
Mm-hmm. Man, I got to tell you, so you hit home with 2 different things. So one, I was just talking to my sister-in-law. She also does real estate too. And so the consistency and the rituals is something that, like, I told her, I was like, listen, I'm going to put it all out there. Last year, 3 months out of the year, I got real complacent. You know, we flew out, Gil and a few of us flew out to Scottsdale, Arizona. And on the way there, I was like super content. I'd had like 6 closings the month before. And Gil looks at me and is like, yeah, you're up on your high horse, huh? How many pending you have? And I was like, 1. He's like, how many showings are you doing? And I was like, 0. He's like, how do you think that's going to work out next month? And I was like, Great. And he was right. And it affected everyone. It affected our finances, our dogs, like our dogs didn't get the toys that they want. My wife was, didn't get to go as much shopping as she wanted to do. But you're right. It does affect everybody. And that's that internal thing that you start affecting everybody. And I've realized it recently with teaching some more classes in the office is that, if I go in with a poor attitude or a poor mindset, then that's going to affect how that class actually portrays to the rest of the agents. And then how they take it in and perceive it is completely different. They're like, yeah, that class is mediocre. Or maybe they're like, I never want to hear that class again. And there's some good content there, but because of my personality and because of my attitude that morning, affected everything, man. You're preaching to the choir.
And I love that you said that. So I used to be a sports and karate instructor it's called the Little Gym, right? So kids from basically like infants, I think they started like 6 months, but I was teaching mainly like the 2-year-old to 10-year-olds. And at night I would bartend or I'd bounce, right? And so I'd be working all hours. I get 3 hours of sleep coming and I got to teach these kids and I got to be on your A game because there's 10, 15 kids in there. We all know what kind of energy those kids have.
Yeah.
I got to match it. And I remember somebody told me once when I was in there, one of my instructors, when I shut the door, she saw it on my face and she said, come here, open that door again. I said, why? There's parents out there. This kid's going to run out. I said, open that door. When you close it, everything that is going on that you can't have any control over needs to be out there. Mm-hmm. Because these kids are here for 45 minutes to hear from you, to learn from you. And if you bring that in here, you're going to affect their experience. Mm-hmm. So I'm not telling you when I stand up on stage that my life is perfect, because by all means it is not. There's stuff that goes on up here. Yeah, we all have it. I have limited beliefs. We all have it. Right? I have doubts. We all have it, no matter where you're at in life, no matter what level you're at. 5 figures to 10 figures, it doesn't make a difference. But what I do know is that when I'm doing something like this, my power of my rituals, preparing myself, helps me come in at my A game. And that's what they deserve. I was listening to Les Brown. He's like, one thing you could say can change somebody's future. Just one thing, right? One thing. And I think about it. There's a gentleman named Pat Necarato who gave me a chance when nobody else would. He's a Christian man. And I didn't really have much skill besides I could sell and I could bang a hammer because I was doing roofs for a majority of my life. Yeah. And so he's like, look, I'm going to tell you something, John. I'm going to give you this opportunity to run this sales and marketing firm that he had. He goes, but there's 2 things you need to do. I said, what's that? He goes, number 1, the life you're living is not the life you're supposed to live. I said, what do you mean? He's like, there's so much more for you out there. There's so much more beauty and experiences and money, everything for you out there. But you got to change some things. And I'm going to show you how. I said, okay, perfect. He said, number 2, whatever I teach you, give back to the universe, share it. And so when he told me that, it always rings a bell when I'm standing on stage, because if he never told me that, I may never have gone into this venture of trying to change as many lives, right? So I just think about, man, one thing could change a whole person's future. It's powerful. Mm-hmm. And we'll jump back into it because I know we're on a time crunch, but so E, you want to get into E? What E means?
Yeah. Tell me.
E has like a kind of 2, right? I had to put 2 in there because these are too powerful. First is emotional intelligence. And I'll stay there for a second. We are all driven off of emotions, right? Emotion causes motion. And so if I was a very violent person, I was a very negative person, I was somebody that it was very hard to calm me down. Like if a deal fell through and you were around me, it's hitting the fan. It's going nuts. If you cut me off when we're driving, I'm white knuckling to either you pull over or I run out of gas.
Yeah.
I didn't realize then until my wife kind of brought it up to me and said, your emotions that are making you act this way are affecting more than just you. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm a leader and it's also happening in my business. All right, so I got to figure out a plan. So emotional intelligence is huge. And I think one of 2 things happen to you guys when you have this emotion overcoming you. You either A, run from it later, or you go ahead and you just sit in it for days. Neither are good. No. You got to kind of find a middle, right? Find a middle part. And what I mean is you got to feel it. So I take 3 minutes to feel the emotion. I feel it. I scream, I yell, I cry, I feel it. I don't push it away. Then I take 2 minutes, and it's just a lot of people fail at this. I take complete ownership. Like complete ownership. Okay, car just rear-ended me. I got to find an opportunity for me to take ownership. What did I do that maybe created that accident? Maybe I left too late. Maybe I was speeding. Maybe I was looking at my phone. What was it? Just find ownership. As a leader out there, everybody that's watching us, you got to find ownership in every everything that happens to you. Okay. And then the 1 minute is simple. And that is the defender to negativity. And that is gratitude. Speaking gratitude. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. And people are like, I have nothing to be grateful for. Do me a favor. Grab your heart. It's beating, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's beating, right? When's the last time you said thank you to your heart for beating even on your worst days? You made it through 100% of your worst days. So if you think you have nothing to be grateful for, feel that heart beating, feel the pulse, because somebody, as we said before, does not have that opportunity.
Yep.
Right? Maybe you're driving in your car. Oh my God, someone hit me. Oh, you're losing your mind. Guess what? You have a car.
Yeah.
Dan and I, we went many of months, years without cars.
Yep.
Right? Like my car was my home at one point. So be grateful for those things. And so my 3-2-1 rule is my emotional intelligence. And then the other side of it is environment, right? Proximity is power. Proximity is power. You must up level your life. And the only way to do that is up level your environment.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. You know, there's a book that talks about it where it says, you know, if you and I right now, Dan, if we take a walk, something's about to happen. Either you're going to adjust to my pace or I'm going to adjust to your pace.
Correct.
And that could go either way. The thing is I want to set such a strong, fast pace that the people are going to adjust to my pace. And guess what, Dan? If you don't and you fall back, you and I aren't going to go walking again probably. If you continually fall back, and that's just the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so my environment is so crucial, and your environment must be conducive. Write this down, guys. Your environment must be conducive to your goals. Don't tell me that you have all these big dreams, you have all these big goals, but you're hanging out with people that don't align with them, right? Don't align with them. Then there's the issue of telling your big dreams to small-minded people. They're just the wrong people. Mm-hmm. So find the crew, find that tribe that's going to lift you up, that's going to make you better. And I'll kind of drop this line in here because I see a lot with real estate agents. Stop comparing yourself to the people around you. Mm-hmm. Too many of you think you're really good, but I'm here to tell you, you're good compared to what?
Yeah.
You're good compared to what? To the people that are average around you? You're good to maybe your brother or sister who aren't doing as well? That's cool. I'm glad you're doing good compared to them. Mm-hmm. Brian Moses is a mentor of mine. I was leading every single month. Like I'm patting myself on the back here in sales every month. And I'm blowing past people. And you know, there might be a few months here I didn't, but most of the time, like I'm top dog. And I remember him coming in. He was number 2 Caldwell Banker agent in the world. A phenomenal mentor of mine. And so, or Remax 1 or 2. But anyway, he sat me down. He goes, top of the leaderboard. I said, yeah. He goes, you look pretty happy. I said, I am. He goes, what's the matter with you? I'm like, what? Dude, I'm crushing. I'm making more money than I ever made. And nobody can keep up. What do you mean? What's the matter with me? He goes, why are you comparing yourself to them? Right? You need to be comparing yourself to yesterday. Mm-hmm. So if you start comparing yourself to who you were yesterday and you just have that as your competition, you start rising up. You start up leveling. And so I advise everybody to look closely around you. If you're like, bro, I made 50 calls today, and that's great. Why? Because everybody in your office is doing 30? Come on, guys. What's the standard here? What's the standard you're trying to live by, right? Raise your standards, raise your results. Mm-hmm. Raise your standard, raise your results. Raise your environment, raise your results. So that's E. E's kind of twofold.
Yeah.
S is the one that most people do not get. So I've asked this question, Dan. I've asked this question to over, I don't know, maybe 10,000 people, because like on every single one of my speaking engagements, if not more, and nobody ever gets it. I try to give money away. No one gets it. And that is
I like when you do that, when you give the money away.
And that is, what's the number one habit or trait in successful people? And I get, it's discipline, it's hard work, it's gratitude, it's waking up early, it's law of attraction, it's all these things. And I say those things are great and they are needed. They are in the ingredients. But the top thing is self-awareness. Mm-hmm. Extreme self-awareness on a daily basis, because those things are great. But Dan, if you do not have self-awareness, you're going to go 5 days without being disciplined. You're going to go 5 days without hard work and go 5 days without gratitude. It's very, very hard to get to where you want to go. So the daily self-awareness which I saw from you earlier today, is vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Like, admit it. I wrote a post today about it. Like, do you have excuses for your excuses?
Yeah, I saw that.
It's like, man, you know what? I didn't wake up early because I had a rough night last night, and had a rough night because my wife was getting on me. Well, like, will you just stop? Like, making these damn excuses,
Yeah.
they are not serving you. They are not serving you. So with the self-awareness, it's self-awareness of your excuses that you tell yourself, because we all do it. It's not like I walk through life and I never have excuses. Like, no, I
Mhm.
do, but I'm self-aware. So I pivot, I change. I say, nope, that's not the story that's true. That's a BS story. It doesn't serve me. And
Yep.
so self-awareness with vulnerability. And that's the hard part, I think, man, is that vulnerability. And why I'm proud that you did it before, talking about your story, is because, guys, vulnerability is contagious.
Mhm. Yeah.
And vulnerability is, I think, the top 2-3 things that you need in order to be successful, because you can't grow without vulnerability. When I was, before I said, I don't know what I don't know, I wasn't vulnerable. I'd never admitted my mistakes and wanted people to give me feedback for real change. No. Once I dropped that ego, right, and that pride down, I was able to receive. So that vulnerability is huge. And then last is S. And S is just simplify with questions.
Mhm.
With questions. Be the best question asking person in the room. But I'm a big believer in 2 things. Salesmen out there, your income is directly proportionate to the quality of questions you ask your clients. And I'll be talking about this at Sync to you next week. Like, I'm going to beat people over the head about ask a better question. Ask a better question. Stop telling. Stop telling. The person doing the telling is the person doing the selling. They need to be telling you. Stop telling. They need to be telling you. And then on the flip side, your quality of life is proportionate to the quality of questions you ask yourself.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to tell everybody the number one question I ask myself, because they got to come see me at one of my events. But there's one question I ask myself, and it changed my life. It has legit changed my life. And when I find myself not asking myself that one question, I start looking around and I realize things in my life aren't going great, right? My health isn't where it needs to be. I'm eating the cookies, I'm eating too late. My finances aren't where they need to be. I'm not making dials, whatever the case is. When I am self-aware and I realize I'm not asking myself that one question, I just really see a direct effect on every equity of life.
Yep.
Now, here's the bonus. And I've been talking for a while, so I'm sorry, but here's the
No,
bonus.
you're good. You're good. I love it. I'm eating it all up.
With the press method, man, press means to put force on something, right? To put force on something. This doesn't work. This doesn't work without massive, aggressive, empowering daily action.
Yep.
And that's that. That's what it comes down to. Because the curriculum to success, you guys ready for the curriculum to success?
Yeah. Yeah.
Failure and adversity. That's it. Like, be okay with signing those papers to the college of success by just saying, I'm okay with failure. I'm okay with adversity. And be okay with getting to it faster. And the only way to do that is through the action.
They say that the most successful people have actually failed the most, and really, that's kind of the key to it all, really, because they're not failures; they're lessons learned. But they had to learn the most lessons to be at that point and that top point. And a lot of people tend to want to have all the answers versus ask the right questions along the way too. And I used to suffer from that a lot. My mom and I actually just had a conversation the other day. My mom was like, make sure that you're giving other people room to talk. And I was like, Mom, I'm not the way I used to be, please.
And then
I was like,
in here and take up all the airtime.
I was like, Mom, I was like, I'm not how I used to be. I promise. I was like, watch my podcast. But no, but it's true, because a lot of people they listen to respond or reply. They don't listen to understand. And when you start making that change, and it sounds so cheesy and corny that that I'm saying that because everyone's heard it, but in reality, nobody applies it, because like you're saying, it's not just about the questions, because some people just start asking questions just to ask them. They don't actually ask, a train of thought. They're just like, I want to sound interesting, so I'm going to ask another question. But I found myself like almost in that mentality last night. We had a networking event, and I ran into a financial advisor. And of course, first question, well, where do you work? And she's like, well, I work for myself. And I was like, okay, well, which firm? And then kind of going through those regular ones. And then I was like, wait, I don't know anything about this person. Let me ask her some more questions. So I was like, well, where'd you go to college? Where are you from? Where's that accent from? And then that's when it became a natural conversation. And I actually just kept asking just to ask and actually understand where she came from and what she's doing and how we could collab on business. And that was something I had to learn a long time ago, that I had to set the ego aside, because when when you put that aside, then things become clear again. Clarity. We keep going back to that, and I can't stress that enough with this press method that you have, because that's really what it is. It's just having that clarity at the end of the day, but going through the motions properly and understanding it. So,
yeah, and the best part is, man, when you actually ask questions and you listen to understand, that's how you build a relationship. When you go out with somebody for the first time, right, you're usually pretty nervous, but when you're asking questions, you're trying to learn about that person and see if this person is going to be a fit for my life and my dreams, right? I mean, hopefully there might be some other things on your agenda, but like that, you're trying to like really understand who this person is before you become more engaged in the conversation. It's the same way when you're talking to prospects. It's like, look, this is the biggest transaction of their life. So give such a, can I curse on this? If not,
yeah, for sure.
Give a shit about the person.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. How do you care more? You ask questions and you listen to understand, not to respond, and you truly engage.
I had some clients recently. They just moved down from Maryland, and now they're like family. They're like my aunt and uncle now. They're actually on a cruise. They're coming back. They'll probably see this and be like, "Oh, you mentioned us." But I got them through a lead source. So there's like several different lead sources I use, right? But I got them through a lead source, and that's basically just someone just connecting me on the phone and being like, "Hey, I've got this lead on the line. They're pre-approved, ready to go. This is the home they want to see." So when I got there, I started asking them questions, like, what's your history? Where are you from? Why Florida? And come to find out, they're like Disney fanatics, right? And they've got a whole family up in Maryland, and they're wonderful people. And one of the things that they said to me after we spent in that house, we showed up. Thankfully, it was vacant because we were there for like an hour and a half, just sitting there, just chatting. And at the end of it, the wife looked at me and she's like, "You know what? I'm so happy it's you, because we didn't want to be just another transaction." And she's like, "And I could tell by just this conversation and how much time you've given us that we're not just another transaction." And she's right. I mean, they're wonderful people. We have the same sense of humor, so we're always sending each other funny memes. And I love them to death. I can't wait till they get back in town. But yeah, we got them the home of their dreams. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. We don't have clients. We don't have customers. We just have a lot of friends and family that do business with us. And that's really where it's at. So
you said something about not another transaction. I tell a lot of people that come to the course, it's like, let them know, be honest with them. Look, you're not another transaction to me. And that's why I'm asking these people. Like, are people going to get weirded out? They ask all these why questions. They are if you become a robot and just why. But if you truly care, and then they still kind of get weirded out. But look, I get it. It's not what a lot of agents do. But for us, it's not another transaction. And we know this is the biggest transaction of your life. So, we just want to make sure that we understand everything you want so we can deliver at the highest possible standard we can for you. Boom.
So speaking of questions, I'm going to follow up with another one. So I would typically ask somebody what cool event they're going to be attending or they've recently attended. But let's get back to this retreat, man. Let's talk about this upcoming event. I typically ask, what event are you looking forward to? And I already know the answer to that. So tell us about this retreat you've got coming up in Destin, Florida on May 2nd.
I appreciate the platform, man. So yeah, the Ultimate You Retreat, we did it last year. We sold out. We do it here in Destin, Florida, where I live. It's actually on 30A. So it's Santa Rosa Beach. Most people know Destin, but it's on the beach. And last year's experience was incredible. We took people through 8 hours of first digging deep, right? Uncovering what is it that's been holding you back for so long to dive into your greatness and truly put yourself out there. And once we uncover that, we go back to that place and we face that event, that person, and we see that person. We say, "I see you and I respect you, but you cannot control me, and I'm not taking you to the grave with me. You're not allowed in there with me." And so what I've done with that is from there, we then dig deep into their why. And then there's so many other sessions, but the whole process is 8 hours, guys, where myself and Julian Rosen, who's another coach, another speaker, phenomenal mind. He's a nerd for the science of the mind, and I just love hearing him speak. He's going to drop some incredible knowledge on you guys. But what it's about is truly uncovering your BS story, right? Tapping in to the things that hold you back, and then going ahead and using that pain to power progression into your daily life. And then making sure that you have applicable tools to let go of certain things that are not serving you, right? That are not empowering you. To then go ahead and create this new process, rewiring your mind to reshape your life. And it's not this like woo woo fluff fluff motivation. This is actual strategies. We're going to take you through a deep meditation. We're going to do some EFT. We're going to make sure that you're in the state that you need to be in to receive. And then from there, once we uncover all the BS, once we go ahead and peel back those layers, we start filling in the gaps with things that benefit you. And so it's 8 hours. It's May 2nd, Destin, Florida. And then we end with a cocktail and dinner party. So probably get some carrabas, some chicken parm, and we'll have some cocktails. And the house overlooks the Gulf. So it's right on the beach. It's a beautiful home. And we're going to be together all day, all night, and really being able to create that life that you want and create and design the experiences you want and the ultimate version of you. And it's an experience like no other. And when I was sitting creating the 2020 vision, I almost didn't do it again. And the reason why is because it was so powerful for me. I honestly said, how can I deliver again?
Yep.
How can I cried for like 3 days afterwards? I asked my wife. She's like, "What? Why do you keep crying? Like, it was just so good." Yeah, it was good. And if you guys see the video, the sizzle reel, you'll see what I mean. There's a lot of tears, a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of vulnerability. And so when I sat there, I'm like, you know what? I don't know. It's a big undertaking. Should I do it? And then I just thought to myself, man, I cried because people's lives changed. And then I just reached out to a few of the people, and they told me they made more money. They told me their relationship got back intact. They told me that they started new businesses. They told me all these phenomenal things. It's like, John, I will be honest with you. Without that retreat, I'm not sure if it would have happened. It may have, but I know I've taken what we learned and reworked at that retreat, and it now serves me for a better life. And I said, I'm doing it. And so it's May 2nd. It's only $249 a ticket. And then May 1st, if you get in early, which I suggest you do, is we're going to do some kind of like we did electric bike tour last year along 30A. Then we ended at the bonfire on the beach. I don't know what we're going to do yet, but we will have the bonfire on the beach the night before in front of the house. So A, you know where the house is, and B, you can network, right?
Nice.
Have a few beers and just hang out, network with people, get to know people. And we'll have 40 people in the room, and we have 17 tickets left.
Okay.
And the reason, this is not a scarcity thing. This is we will sell out, and it's a house. It's not like I have a conference center where it's thousands of seats. This is a house. So I can fit 45 in there, and I don't want people, to be bumping elbows. So we're going to fit 40 in there.
Yeah.
And it's going to change your life. So if you are sitting there right now and you're a quick 5-hour drive, if you live in Orlando, anywhere near, do yourself a favor. Do your future a favor. Come to this retreat. I guarantee you success. I guarantee you to rework your mind. You're going to have one-on-one time with myself and Julian. There's open Q&A. We're going to tap into some things. But there are two things that I want them to be aware of. So number one is if you're not willing to get comfortable being uncomfortable, like it's a very vulnerable and intimate setting. If you're not willing to do that, then this retreat is not for you. Right? This retreat is not for you. And number two is I only want people there that are ready to commit afterwards. Commit to taking action on the things they learned at that event to create the ultimate version of them. That's it, right? It's that kind of exclusivity to where I want that. I want that. I don't do it to speak to you for 8 hours. I do it because I want to see the end result, right? When I used to pick up shingles, because I first started off being basically a shingle boy. Yeah. My favorite part was seeing the tarp at the bottom all done because I know the work I put in and I saw the result. And when I used to bang shingles, I used to love the end product, right? And so I want to see the end product, and that's only going to happen if you take action. So $249, the links are over there, johnmarrone.com/retreat. And here's another thing. I have a course that's 27 modules. It's called the Ultimate You course, 27 modules on how to create the ultimate version of yourself in all 6 equities with homework assigned to some of them. It's usually $300. We'll throw that in free for your group. Nice. So anybody signs up, you pay a $249 ticket, you get a $300 product that you'll have lifetime access to for anyone ever I update it, whenever I add more content to it. But the 27 modules that are sitting in there are going to be yours for free when you go ahead and get your tickets. But once again, awesome. They're going to sell out.
Thank you, John. So if you guys want to attend that event, which you should attend that event, there's not many tickets left. The link was scrolling below, but I also put it in the comment thread as well. And if you want to follow John on all of his social media, I've actually got all of his links down below, johnmarrone.com. And then everything is at Real John Marrone. And I got to tell you, John, this was a fantastic episode. you've given us so much. You've given me so much, and I thank you for that. And I was able to express more that I haven't said in a long time, to be quite honest. And it's things that I used to be ashamed of, and it's things that were holding me back at one point. But after seeing you last year, and after all the growth that I've kind of gone through with a lot of different leaders and mentors these last few years, life isn't all having to be all tough and rough on the exterior. We've been there, we've done that, right? So it's more so about being able to kind of really collab with the human race. So, John, I want to thank you for being on this episode. We're going to do a quick rapid fire segment with you so we can get some more personal stuff. So, what is your favorite trilogy of all time?
Man, that's hard. I don't really have one, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. So here's my thing. I'm a big sports movie guy.
Okay.
And comedy, right?
Okay.
And things like that, but I don't have one. It's like, oh my God, it's coming out. Like right now, it's Frozen. I can't wait for Moana 2 to come out.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's where I'm at right now in
all right.
my life.
So being on sports, who is your favorite athlete of all time and why?
Emmitt Smith, hands down.
Okay.
Emmitt Smith, growing up, my father was a Jets fan, and he said, I'll never, ever put that on you. And he said, so find your team, right? So I found the Cowboys, and
of course,
Emmitt was coming into the league, and I just saw somebody in such small stature create such force. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he had a great line. He had all these things, but he still had to put the work in. He still had to play with a separated shoulder. He still had to overcome all the haters and doubters his entire life to get to that point.
Yep.
So when I look at him, he was my idol for so long, and I idolized and looked up to him. And I actually had the opportunity. I spoke in Vegas last year, and I had my I don't do bucket list, by the way, guys. I do living life list.
Yeah.
You guys will learn about. But I had him on my living life list to meet him, and man, I met him last year. I was speaking at an event, random enough in Vegas, and he was there signing autographs. And I went, I saw him, and took the pictures with him, and he signed my book. And the worst part is, I forget what happened. I blacked out when I met him. So I was fangirling out. I'm like, oh my God.
I'll tell you, I've got a few friends that are pro athletes, but I've always wanted to meet Emmitt Smith. And ironically enough, I also met him last year. Well, the year before as well, at an event here in Orlando called the Better Man event. And honestly, the guy is phenomenal. I mean, like you said, he had to put in the work. He had the O-line that helped him out. But this man he's not much. He's basically my height, and I'm not that tall. But the guy is amazing. He talks so much about his life, and I agree that is also one of my favorite athletes in life. So, John, with that, I want to thank you for being on the show. You are fantastic. And as always, guys, you can check us out on Apple Podcasts. You can check us out on Spotify. The Takeover podcast or the takeover.buzzsprout.com is where you can see all the links for all the podcast stuff. And we look forward to seeing you guys this week and every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget the link for John's retreat is right there in the comments. So make sure you guys get your tickets soon. All right. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.
Thanks, guys.